where we've been, where we're going, what matters, where we put our energy. And it's also a time capsule that serves for future generations and stewards of this faith community. And so here we are, June 12th, 2022. Is it 2022? I saw a meme going around about that. Okay, so here's our agenda, and we're starting at 11. Congratulations, everyone. We did it. Okay, our agenda. We're going to start off with thanking our current officers and council members, talk about our goals and accomplishments, introduce the new slate of officers. We'll hear the reparations resolution that was emailed to all of you. We'll hear the treasurer's report. We'll have discussion, and then we'll vote, and then we'll have the results. How's that sound? Okay, yeah, so Carolyn, thanks for bringing that up. So the council this year, because there's so much that's going on, and because the nature of the budget itself and the transition between officers and council members has been, there's been so much transition, we want to hold off part 2 until the fall, where the new slate of council members will share their vision. The council's going to meet on June 15th. I'm hoping as many newly proposed, hopefully elected council members can join us for that, and we'll start to plan the transition. So to begin with, I want to invite forward our this year's council members, and let's see if this works. Hold on. Oh, I had Pomp and Circumstance playing. Where is it? What's it? I think, wait a second. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. This is better than listening to it. Da, they're graduating. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. But some are never graduating. Okay. I want to lift up this team. And Sean, up there in the AV tower. I have a few things to say to all of you. Our outgoing council moderator, Carolyn Noble, certainly embodies her last name. She has served wisely and nobly 2 years ago as vice moderator and now moderator during the most challenging 4 years of the life of many churches, including ours. She has also served on personnel and finance, and has been like a preschool liaison, and has helped with site protection plan, and has helped with the HR handbook. I want to just give a huge applause. I told Carolyn, we couldn't have done this without her, and it's oftentimes such a thankless job, especially in COVID, especially during the stresses that we're all under. So I want to just give her a huge thank you. And next to her is, up in the AV tower there, looking like God over there, Vice Moderator Sean has made significant contributions in our systems. He's a techie person, migrating us to Google Suite, supporting hybrid Zoom on Worship Zoom, as he's doing today. He's contributed to our green initiatives. He helped Catherine and Michael and others in installing the solar to the roof, and he also has initiated more outreach to youth spirit artwork. So I thank you for so many things there, Sean. Thank you. And I'm sure I'm missing things too. But our treasurer, Tom, has brought needed clarity to our understanding of our financial health during this challenging time. It's not to be underestimated, because at the same time that we were going through COVID, there were these influxions of payroll protection loan grants coming in and bequests, and to be able to sort through it all and get a sense of how we're really doing. Carolyn and Tom together, oh my gosh, thank you. And Tom also has the joy of being on personnel and finance, and he's one of the Zoom AV hosts. So Um, Thank you. Thank you. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. With respect to finance and personnel, I also want to lift up, we adopted a badly needed employee handbook, and we worked with an HR consultant that the council approved of, and so it's very current with California law, but it was quite an undertaking, so personnel and finance were hugely involved in that. And we also, in terms of finance, we migrated from Payality to ADP, which was also, it's a great improvement. It helps us be more accurate with accruals. It helps the whole staff and all of us know what's going on. So then Catherine Kessler, and look, you're standing, look at you guys, you're lined up. Okay, Catherine Kessler, it's a miracle. Green Team Chair of many years. Catherine, I can't talk about you without talking about Michael, the two of you, and Michael's so understated. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Well, I know. They keep this campus safe and green, and they love this environment. They care about this planet. They are educators. They are passionate. They have brought forth solar that's already reducing our energy costs and keeping us safer with the fire inspections that are happening. They're also evangelists for environmental best practices, not only here with us at church, but also with our weddings and events and with the preschool. Catherine's even planting flowers and vegetables and fruit for the preschoolers. So I am so grateful. And also, Catherine and Nancy, it's all the same people. Catherine and Nancy and Carolyn helped to secure, I would imagine it's about a couple of $100,000 of payroll protection loan grants and employee retention grants. So in this time where we've been riding quite a storm, they've helped to make that happen. Over 100,000. There's Nancy Taylor. Nancy has served as our chair of justice and witness. She's like over the charts passionate about the militarism, racism, unregulated capitalism, the violence done to the planet. There's so much that she is passionate about, and this year she's deepened our partnership with Faith in Action East Bay, particularly around justice in jails, the Santa Rita jail where 63 people have died since 2005. It's like one every 7 weeks, and like 40% of the people there like suffering from serious mental illness. People shouldn't be in jail. Yeah, for that. Postcarding, voting, yes, that's huge. The voting, yeah. So there's more. There's so much, but they're not giving their accomplishments. I really need to lift up this team. And Walter has offered us wisdom from his experience in governance, in history, in wanting us to understand the then and the now of our church profile, which is sobering, and also our processes from his experience as a church administrator of a very large church in Houston and all the work that he's done for National. So thank you, Walter. And Becky, our recording secretary, has been somehow, I don't know if many of you have gone to our council meetings, to be able to keep timely, accurate minutes of our many long council meetings is it's masterful. And Becky has also been supporting our improvements in our wedding and events processes. So we'll hear more about that. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I have some gifts for everybody. So go to the table and take your little gifts. No, seriously, I mean, in general, those of you, raise your hand if you've served on church council before. Yeah. Has it been fun? Imagine what it's like now. So I want to give, as they're sitting down, let's hum Pomp and Circumstances. Come on over, Sean. And then let's give them a huge round of applause and our gratitude. What? I did, thank you. There's a few other people. I want to also thank Paula and Steve Kilgore. There are some boxes for them too, because they served this year on the nominating committee, One of the fun things that former moderators get to do is to serve on the nominating committee because they have a sense of the congregation and the kind of leadership that's needed. And so Paula and Steve were very supportive during that time. I also want to thank Dave Byrons and Philippia Pegram, who served on pastoral relations, it's like the fingers on the pulse of the congregation and also support that the pastor needs. So thank you very much for your service. And I mean, I look around at each one of you, and there are so many things that each one of you does. So it's too numerous to count, but thank you. Thank you. Do you want to add anything, Carolyn?
I want to thank council. It's been lots of
Here you go.
Thank you, council. A lot of heavy conversations, especially over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Some serious contemplation about what to do with the budget this year and how to address what's going on still in our community. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Okay, so our next slide. I'm just going to lift up some highlights of our accomplishments. We discerned with everything that's going on, what's the most important thing? It's to stay safe, given COVID. And we've done it. Basically, with our church, we've worked the site protection plan team that I mentioned. We're continually monitoring to make sure that we're keeping social distancing and masking and closing when we need to. With our preschool, I want to just lift up, at a time when many preschools, 100,000 teachers have left daycare in the country because it's just such a burnout, and 1 in 3 have closed. We've stayed open. There has not been an outbreak. And it's pretty heroic. So I want to lift that up. And with our events, for a long time they were closed, and now we're consciously, mindfully, gradually opening them up again, ensuring best practices because we do not want to be a super spreader site. Managing change. There's been a lot of change this past year. We are saying farewell to 4 preschool teachers. There's 6. 4 of them left. For various reasons, leaving or left. 2 of them, one of them was the commute, a couple of them it's stress, another one is moving, and this is not unusual. So that's a reality. Our bookkeeper is leaving. We've had, since Nancy Montier left, 2 office managers with very short stays, one 2 months, another one 6 months. And 1 music director. Tremendous amount of change that we've been managing. We've also continued on with hybrid church, not only in worship, but also with a lot of our meetings, just using Zoom as a way of staying connected. We're starting to resume and improve our campus events, and we're improving our operational effectiveness and efficiencies, all these standard operating procedures and improvements to the systems that we're using. We are working at fostering unity within our diversity. During stressful times, tensions rise, people are not, and it's all over the world, are not at their best. And so we're learning a lot about working through conflict together in love. And we're in the process of co-creating this wider shared vision and mission for Skyline, not only Skyline Church, but also our preschool and also our weddings and events, especially within the context of this time and place in the wider world. And another accomplishment, we attained 2 payroll protection loan grants and 1 employee retention grant that have both been forgiven. So I want to thank this council. I'm sure, Carolyn, if you have other accomplishments that you want to lift up? Okay, all right, okay. I would have added them yesterday. Okay, all right. Some of the goals, and this is something, I'll be working with our new moderator, Santho Kilgore, and the new team on, is to be spirit-led, to focus on love in everything, in every relationship, in every interaction. That is our true north. Connected with that is safety. We have no idea how long this pandemic's going to last. And so part of our love is to protect one another. I see a critical priority for us now, because I do think this is an inflection point for this congregation, is co-creating a focused, shared vision for Skyline, the whole operation, and then after that, doing the necessary bylaws and structural updates. Okay, I've got a couple of bullets to explain it. I shouldn't have used bullets. Okay, the process, responding to the Spirit in who we are now and who we are called to become in this time and place. That's the essence of the why and the how. Assimilating, supporting, and empowering the new staff and council, because I just showed you all the changes that are going on, and so it's really important to bring that new team not only up to speed, but to support and empower them, and to co-create this vision together. Related to that, expanding our partnerships in ministry, which means not just UCC, it means all interfaith partners, it means all these different organizations, Faith in Action East Bay, ICJJ, the Interfaith Council for Alameda County, and to be discerning about which groups, because I think sometimes we want to do so many things because there's so much that needs to be done. And so I think we need to have some important discussions about what is our primary focus now. June 15th, the way this will begin, our council is meeting again, the current council, to start the transition plan. New officers are going to be installed soon. It's somewhere under, yeah, whoops. When they're all present, because some of them aren't here today. And we will present our goals in the fall at a time to be determined. So that's it in a nutshell. Did that answer your question, Cheryl? It's very general. Okay, all right. So I want to now introduce our new council officers. Would you please stand up, and would everyone else stand up, come on forward, and can we all hum Pomp and Circumstance again? Da, 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 da. And then former members too that are staying on. Catherine, yeah. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Jim, come on up. Da, 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 da. So, okay. All right. So, I want to present to you, there's a couple of people who are traveling. Santho Kilgore has responded to the call of the Spirit and said, here I am. I'm really grateful for Santho saying yes. She is a woman of strong spirit and strength and wisdom, and I look forward to working with you and your leadership. We do not currently have a vice moderator. It would be wonderful, especially in this time of transition. I'm thrilled that Karen Ehrenpreis has discerned. She actually, she attended our council meeting when we were in the throes of the budget, so she's seen the waves. She's been in the storm. And even though she's working full-time too, and it's like, you're working crazy hours, oh my God, she said yes. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. I will say, I will say the budgeting process has been greatly improved. Carolyn took it to a next level, and then Tom took it to a next level. Also with managing involvement well. So Karen, I think the model for the budget's in good hands. Thank you. So Catherine Kessler is continuing with her leadership of the green team. Yay! And she's even wearing green. How about that? How perfect is that? Jim Schubert has said, "Here I am," and you already heard him today making an announcement about organizing for voting rights in Texas. So Nancy Taylor is like, I can't, where did Nancy go? Oh, there she is, she's in the back. Nancy has been the leader, like, one of the things for me that keeps me going is the justice work here, and Nancy has been just like another force of nature. So she's still going to be part of Justice and Witness, but we're having an opportunity for Jim's leadership, so thank you so much. Yeah, 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 we're all in this boat together. Charlie Holmes, who's not here, so Charlie has a really interesting, those of you who had conversations with him, part of his passion is justice, and a huge part is compassion. Everyone here has probably received a card from him at some point. He is extraordinarily caring, so he's called to be our chair of care and concern. We still have some spaces, but that's the work ahead of us, and I have faith that we will fill those positions. Recording secretary, Becky Taylor, thank you once again, yes. And Sheila is again going to be our financial secretary. And Sentho and Karen and I are going to be spending a lot of time together on finance and personnel. Let's see what else is changing. Okay, nominating. Carolyn Noble joins nominating. Carolyn Noble has agreed to step up to be preschool liaison, which I think is really, really critical. Thank you so much. She's already been involved with some important conversations that we've had. Carl, I forgot. Okay, Carl is driving to, Carl is going to be at large. Where did he go? There he is. He's going to be the at-large member. The at-large, part of the function is somebody like the finger on the pulse of the congregation, somebody that people find easy to talk with, and so he's been a lifelong member of the UCC, so he'll be serving at large. So this is our slate of officers. So thank you. You can be seated. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Our next item is a resolution that was presented to us by this year's chair of Justice and Witness, Nancy Taylor. Nancy, would you like to come forward and present? And the full revised resolution was sent to you yesterday by Carolyn. So, and we can also present the full resolution revised. This is just a slide that summarizes it, so there you go. Good idea.
I guess I should read it, right? Do I have to read the whole thing?
Who received a copy of it?
Did it?
Who's had a chance to read it?
Okay.
Okay.
And if you haven't, it's there to read. And so, since the resolution went out, there has been some email discussion this morning, back and forth about the sort of the problems with the resolution as it currently stands, at least, the mechanics part, the technical parts. So I just would like to do two things. First of all, I don't think that we should vote on the resolution today. We can have some conversation about it, questions and answers, discussion, and I think that there needs to be some work on it, and that this can be maybe brought before the congregation maybe at the next quarterly meeting, if possible. But we have to do this right. Carolyn yes, gave some really good input, and her comments are in the group email. Apparently, Carolyn works with trusts and endowments, and has some, can give us a little bit of guidance on how to do this. So I'm really grateful for that. So what I would hope, though, is that after we have our discussion, that we can have some kind of agreement that we do want to go forward with the resolution and present it properly, number one. And number two, that the concept, that people agree on the concept. So why don't we just open it up for questions or discussion? Yvonne?
Just regarding the concept, the reward of a fund or I know that Caroline probably over there. Here? Yes. Yes, regarding the concept, I am wondering if this called resolution and the fund and endowment is a lot bigger than what our intention and possible result should really be. Why wouldn't we call it an initiative? Because when we talk about reserving funds or something, there is no sunset clause there that says that if there is an emergency, this fund has to return the money back to the church so those $100,000 can be used. I mean, we are not spending the $100,000, that's understood, but it sounds like they are tied up. I mean, you couldn't use them for anything else. So having them tied up to me is a real problem. I mean, there has to be some kind of an exit clause there. The second thing is the concept that is the charity that has been chosen is the Ohlone people, heritage, whatever. And I'm wondering how much do we know about who the recipients would be, eventually on whose pocket is this fund going to end up, because I could see that when you assign funds for food or for housing, that's pretty clear. But to the Olones, it sounds to me like it's more supporting activism as opposed to real tangible results. So I would say that in the resolution or the proposal, there has to be some clause that calls for due diligence on eventually how will these interests will be exactly used, and that shouldn't be a blank check. Thanks.
Is anybody taking notes? Okay, good. Okay, so what I hear you saying, so what you're saying, Yvonne, is that you're concerned about the permanence of an endowment, number
Yes,
one. And
that's one concern.
number two, that you're concerned about this being too vague in terms of who would be eligible to receive in these two groups.
It sounded to me like the funds that go to the groups would be earmarked for specific initiatives within those communities, as opposed to being used in their general funds.
In their general fund?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
earmark it for a specific cause so that those,
okay.
you know, that we want that to go to, not to go into a general fund.
Gotcha.
That's
I
what,
think
and I understand that
Yeah,
personally, but.
thank you.
I think that if we had identified the entities that were going to be receiving funds, it would help people understand this because to help people locally, is there an organization we've identified who can distribute the funds?
Well, I know Nancy and I have brought this up a few times that the Ohlone organization locally, they do have a land trust. Segurite is the name of it, Segurite Land Trust. But I kind of agree with Yvonne and Michael that it would be good to have a group look into a more specific for both for African American reparations and indigenous reparations, so that we know, what it's being used for and by
Yeah.
what group.
My thought about that is that if we can define more closely what we would like it to be used for rather than name groups, because over time, groups come and go, but if, for instance, I was thinking if it said local, low income, groups supporting low-income people or low-income individuals, for instance, and I see Carolyn nodding, yay.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that an endowment lasts in perpetuity. And so, if we name specific organizations that exist today, they may not exist in 50 years. And so it would be wiser for the council, for the church to identify characteristics that would qualify an organization to be a recipient, and then probably have some mechanism for selecting each year where that annual payout would go. But that you have this kind of a roadmap with specific characteristics or minimum qualifications that would help focus that each time.
Thank you. And Walter,
Thank you. In that we could probably spend the evening on the operational end of how all of this works, I think is of critical importance to us today is to understand the covenantal relationship that we have with the United Church of Christ and with our conference. So the general idea from the macro view of what is this all about, we need to leave the room understanding that. We're not an island unto ourselves, it's a bigger national picture. And so if we could embrace that as a thought process, go home, do our homework, and then those who want to help the conference and the national office and the church work out the operational part of this, I'm certain there'll be space for you.
and yeah, so I think the resolution itself does say that the Northern California and Nevada Conference of the United Church of Christ at its 2020 quarterly conference meeting on 10/25/20 called for all congregations to acknowledge and make amends for the history of genocidal and violent treatment of local indigenous and African American peoples. And in the latest version of the resolution that Carolyn sent, there are footnotes, and you can click into those and actually read the documents that came out of this conference. So I really encourage you to do that. We want to acknowledge and support our local NCNC-UCC justice recommendations and justice work. Absolutely. Thank you.
And also to honor our commitment as a sanctuary congregation.
Yes, and the sanctuary resolution is in there too, that you can, or sanctuary resources for the sanctuary resolution are in there.
Any other questions? It sounds like we need to have some more time, and maybe on Sundays we can have some breakouts in the friendship room after church.
Right.
Oh, and Cheryl had a comment, just a second. I
I
don't
would
think
love-
we're ready. Do you feel you're ready?
Well, I think that if at least we can have a vote to temporarily, let's say temporarily freeze those funds until this has been worked out, freeze the 200,000, and that, number one, that we agree on the amounts and the mechanics, and then and that people do want to, go forward with this concept. I'd like to see, this wouldn't be, this would be a temporary situation.
I do have a problem with freezing anything. I mean, that's when you say you freeze it, it means that it's out of consideration for anything else. And I think
Temporarily.
that's right. So, so if it's all temporary,
Temporarily meaning, probably just for,
so it means that we agree to discuss it further.
oh yeah,
So therefore, I don't really see the need for a vote.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
So some members feel that it's too soon to freeze, even 30 days or a month or 2 months, I think is what, and I just kind of looking in the room, I think there's still a lot of questions.
I'm remembering when we voted to become a sanctuary congregation, we went through a similar process where it was like, we're not ready, and then we went back, and then we presented a revised resolution. I don't know if you remember that, because
Right.
one of the pieces was we wanted to be open to the possibility of having somebody on campus. People weren't ready for that part, and it was like so I think maybe.
Well, what we did then was we actually voted, and we did a ballot vote on the sanctuary resolution, and it came up something like just barely over 50% in favor, And we decided that we didn't want to move forward with such a slim majority. Okay. Catherine?
Not using our savings or our endowments, our investments for salaries and operations of, daily operations of the church. And plus the fact that this amount of money is about a quarter of what we have in these endowments, it doesn't seem like a difficult decision to temporarily freeze it, because it's not the huge significant part of our current savings that we have. I don't know if you want to go into that more, but
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we are kind of already freezing it, because we're saying we're not using it for, we're using this money so far for capital improvements to our church, like our solar and the ADA bathroom coming up, and I know I'm getting into the budget here, but so it's not like this is our last $200,000 that we have available. I just wanted to bring that up.
Nancy, I was really relieved when you said we're not going to vote today, because I feel this needs a lot of work, and I really appreciate what some other people have felt. I would not like to freeze anything at this point. I think the whole thing needs a lot of work. That's my opinion.
So, okay.
I just wanted to say, I was wondering, I don't even know if I have a vote, but I feel very strongly that this congregation needs to support reparations and to our Indigenous people and African American people. And so I'm wondering if the church would be interested in voting that we agree that we want to support that, and then and then do the work to figure out exactly how we're going to do that. But it seems like we're called from the National UCC to do this work and to make a decision on that. And so I'm wondering if people would feel comfortable voting on that without putting any numbers on it at this point. But that's my proposal. The concept of reparations, so
Well,
that we know that it's people have already
You know what
spent
we
a
could
lot
do?
of time.
There's a ballot, and there's options. Right now, we had planned to go. Oh, there's a ballot that says, vote on it, yes, no, abstain, or defer. So we could do that, and then take a poll that way, both on Zoom and also folks here, and then we'll follow that.
But we're not going to vote on the resolution, though.
We could, yes, no, or defer, or...
I don't want to vote on it.
Okay, all right, then.
But I do want to vote of whether people are, as Katie said,
Becky has a comment.
ready to, move forward in the concept without attaching numbers to it. I would like that vote.
So it sounds like you have something in writing prepared to hand out, is that right?
So we had to have some kind of ballot today. So thank you, Lori, for preparing kind of a draft ballot. But we printed out ballots before the church service. Yeah, but they're not reflective of exactly what people are talking about right now. And unfortunately, we need, if the draft ballot, I'll call it a draft, is the slate of nominees and talking about reparations. It's not phrased in the way that we are talking about right now.
Maybe someone would be willing to make a motion, maybe Katie, you would be willing to make a motion on a new thing to vote on regarding this.
And thank you. Yeah, no, we have to do the treasurer's report.
Yeah.
I didn't forget.
Okay, let's move this along. Let's have a motion and a vote.
Well, is the vote going to be on the paper or by a show of
I
hands?
have to find the ballot. Lori printed them out for us. Thank you.
Confer what?
We have a quorum.
Oh,
That's a good question. I don't know that we have the mechanics in place to confirm that, because we were even having discussions offline with council, who's a member, and I don't know that we have the mechanics in place, to be honest, of who's, thank you, Michael.
What number of people is a quorum?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the bylaws memorized, and
we should define a quorum as whoever shows up.
Let's table this. I know, Mark, it's a difficult situation. I don't know. So I don't know if we have a quorum present, Nancy. I don't know who's member. I don't know what the percentage is in the bylaws. Off the top of my head, I'd have to look it up. So maybe we aren't in a place to vote.
Even on the budget?
Well, that's another matter, right? So, but Tom does want to present it. I think it's important we have carve out time for the budget discussion.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so I guess, Nancy, we will talk about it and bring it back. And hopefully we can, I didn't bring my laptop to look up the bylaws, but they're in the Dropbox. So go ahead, Tom.
The bylaws state membership, at any meeting of the church membership, a quorum shall consist of 40% of the members. I don't know how many members we have or how many are here, but 40%.
Okay, we have over 40% of the members present. Okay.
I lifted up to nominating and also to our council. So this year, we have 3 new members in our council who are not official members, who feel called to contribute their time and talent and treasure and service. Carl Flaster, Jim Schubert, and Charles Holmes. And so it brings up this much larger question about what is membership, which is something we need to look at. So I talked with our conference minister, and she said, let yourself be curious about the people who care enough to want to contribute their time and talent and treasure, and then find out more about why it is they're resistant to joining. Just listen. So.
So I was just thinking about, like, everything that was said, Nancy's proposal, Paula's points, and so on. So I don't want to say anything directly, but I think generically speaking, regarding finances, things change quickly, especially in the Bay, especially with like markets and COVID. I don't know, so many things change quickly. And I think what I've observed being on a council and, just interacting with many of you is that we all want to basically deliver the best value without feeling like we're wasting our time or our money or resources. And so, in my perspective, like if I just think back to the money we donated to like the YSA thing, who many of you were involved in the whole thing, which made it feel that much more juicy, or like some of the other stuff we did, like the landscaping or solar or whatever. It was sort of like these small projects that sort of a bunch of people kind of did a bunch of, like we mobbed on the small project, and then everyone said, like, let's do all the research and then put together a proposal and then chunk it off. And so like I remember when we did the solar thing, Michael and I did all this work, and then Nancy jumped in and said, hey, look, we can save even more money by like doing this really cool investment thing where we basically split the fund with a program that can help finance for nonprofits. And I also, so that being said, I think that's like a really good way to like mob and create quick results and then get a bunch of people involved without like being very long and lengthy and exhaustive and legal stuff and like all those things. And then so I just think that's a good point to keep in mind, that like how do we accomplish the greatest value for the actual mission and direction that we want to go with these resources and funds and people involved in the congregation and people's time and there's all this stuff that comes up. So that's all I want to say. Here you go.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sean. Okay, Thomas has an update for the budget.
It's in here, right? All right. How y'all doing? Okay. All right. Annual party. I'm going to start off with a quick look. Can anybody see these numbers? Yeah. You guys have awesome vision. Congratulations. I wanted to start off, this is a subsection of our balance sheet. The rest of it totaled out to about 0 between our the things we owe and the things we've got, but this is the bulk of it. This is the money that we've got in the bank. And if you take a look at this, it's almost $1 million. We've got almost $1 million in the bank in various places, doing various things. And that is, I think, more than I've ever seen. So, well done. And we're going to move on and take a look at how it looks right now. Some smaller numbers. I see people leaning in. This is showing the good news from last year, and there was some really, really good news. The budget number is what we had budgeted, and down at the bottom you can see we budgeted a $170,000 loss on the year, and we're actually coming in $28,000 in the positive. It's a miracle. It kind of is a miracle. And you can see the projected actual is based on the year-to-date through May. We don't have June, so it's 11 or 12 11ths or whatever. I did the math to come up with the projected. So you can see here And I think we sent you all this so you can take a look at it. If you have detailed questions, you can reach out. But you can see the places where we did better than expected and the places where we did worse than expected. And there's some weird things in here, like with the numbers that I got from the bookkeeper, we spent $0 on preschool administration. And I don't know that that's true, but that's just how the expenses get coded throughout the year. And I don't know. Was there a question? Yeah. I've got finance revenue here of $95,000. I don't know how those other things got coded.
The second one should do this one.
Ooh, we've got more money?
She missed it in the May report. Carol didn't capture the.
Great.
It was 60 grand, I forget, I think it was about 65. And Michael spent 40 in it, and there was some kind of miscommunication. So
Yep.
it will be in this fiscal year that it's the second one's forgiven.
So we've got another $60,000 forgiveness coming in this month, which will make this budget look even better. All right. Okay, so yeah, we've already got the money, it just hasn't been coded on this part. All right. So let's take a look at the breakdown on this good news and how we managed to do this. Looking at all of the pieces that came in, I tried to find the things that were significantly different from what we'd expected. The ministry revenues, if we look back here, were 143% of our expected budget, and that's almost entirely because of the Babbitt bequest. We got another $44,000 from her estate that we did not expect. So that's awesome. We got another $44,000 unexpected. The preschool revenues about 60 grand over budget. The finance revenue 85, 90, whatever it was, 95. I think I just mistyped there. 95 plus 60. So that's that unexpected windfall. So basically $189,000 according to these numbers of revenue, unexpected revenue. Now the expenses, we budgeted about $5,500 for children, youth, and family, and we didn't spend any of it. We haven't had any children, youth, or family here for years. Property expenses were lower than budgeted. We budgeted for $56,000 of capital projects that we didn't spend this year. That's for the ADA bathroom upgrades and cooling in here. The other capital projects we did get to, but those ones we did not. And so that's about $61,000 that we budgeted for and didn't spend. So if we take a look at this, if we had spent that money and if we hadn't had these unexpected windfalls, we could easily have run a $225,000 deficit this year. So there's some good news on the year, but these numbers tell me that we got lucky. Moving into, I'm about to move into the proposed budget for next year. Any other questions or comments on this piece? Thank you. All right. I think these numbers might be even smaller. If you want to come get close, I'm wearing an N95. I'm sure that it jumps out at you, the number at the bottom in bright red. No hiding this, we are budgeting. This budget includes a $258,000 deficit this year. I expect that this budget is going to be more accurate than last year's. Congress hasn't done any COVID relief. They're not even talking about it. I wouldn't expect anything more there. I don't think that we're getting anything else from the Babbitt bequest. I think that's closed. And for the ministry revenue, we're projecting that we've got about $75,000 this year in member giving, aside from the Babbitt money. And we're going to ask you for more this year and try to get 10% more in giving from the congregation. I don't think there's any way we can balance this budget based on member giving. So we can ask for a little bit more, but that'll only go so far. For the preschool revenues, we've got $708,000 projected for this current fiscal year. We're budgeting $610,000 next year. Carolyn, do you?
Yeah, some of that 710, 708 is from you need a mic.
They can't hear you on Zoom without.
Hello? Okay. So some of that 700,000 includes the non-tuition, which were the PPP loan and the employee retention, because the way it was coded in QuickBooks, there isn't a separate line for that. So it got bundled into tuition. So I'm no financial expert, but I understand that number. And then this year, if we actually, the tuition goes up 5% a year. And I've had a brief conversation with the PAB, which is the Parent Advisory Committee, to the preschool to warn them that we may have to raise tuition rates mid-cycle this year because it's published on our website, 9/1/2022, that we're going to raise them 5%. Who knew that we'd be entering inflation of 8.5% overall? And in order to, I talk a lot about the preschool because it's a huge number for this church, and that's pretty much one of the main reasons is it gets my attention. And the preschool is, the tuition part is going to be a 5% increase. I've warned the parents that we may need to raise the rates again. We've had to pay employees, because the 4 employees that are leaving, we have to pay new employees a higher hourly rate to attract them. The temp agency is, I think, charging $35 to $38 an hour, with a rate increase effective July 1 to $41 an hour. For they don't have to have the same requirements. They don't have the same requirements that we have for our preschool teachers. And so Naomi was able to recruit all those positions that are open with new employees. They're getting a higher hourly rate than the departing employees. They have, we did reduce their pension program slightly. So they're not getting the same pension as, there's different rates of pension. So that's the preschool update.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. You have it.
All right.
Historically, the way the rates have run has been a 5% increase every year in tuition, and the staff has gotten like a 3% cost of living. And when we looked at the numbers, the staff next year is projected, like the total cost for the preschools, an 11% increase. And also we're carrying, because of COVID restrictions, 6 staff instead of 5 1/4. And it's unlikely that that's going to receive payroll protection or employee retention. So that's part of the big exposure that we're looking at.
So we've...
First, Caroline, it's great that you set the expectations about a possible increase for the parents. My question is, given that we already have 2 solid numbers, 8.3% increase in inflation and 11% increase on expenses due to the new teachers and so on, there are 2 solid numbers there. why wouldn't we be able to just raise it right away by 10 or 9% to make it more palatable?
There's a lot of factors that go into the economic reports of that 8% increase overall. So, you know, that is the number that's publicized. Not everybody is experiencing one, you know, because you got to kind of dive deep into that economic number that's publicized. And two, we need a volunteer to help with benchmarking, because we can't automatically raise our rates for the preschool another 5%, for example, you know, to, you know, make it the 8, or, you know, automatically, without understanding the market of preschools in this area. And we don't have the resource to do the benchmarking of local preschool tuition rates. Because typically other preschools are raising 5%. Are they raising 10? I don't know the answer to that. So we would need a volunteer to help with benchmarking rates at preschools that are at in equivalently affluent communities and equivalent structure. So if somebody would like to tackle that, that would be great.
We have a list of the schools, and I'm happy to work with anyone who'd like to work with me. Otherwise, we could help, the staff could be a part of that too.
So, okay.
So there are a few lines on the expense side that I think are a little wonky. We've talked about most of these already, so I can be pretty quick on these. But there are a couple of things that we haven't yet addressed. Ministry payroll is holding steady, but that's with the $5,500 for children, youth, and family cut out of that budget. And ministry payroll is, I think it's pastor and music, and that's it. We see here the preschool payroll is expected to go up. Again, additional staffing from COVID and the new hires. Rentals we haven't really touched on. We're projecting more rental revenue and lower rental expenses this year. Becky, I don't know how you do it. You're a miracle worker. So thank you very much for taking charge in that and helping try to figure out how to do this. The next line here, admin payroll, I'm a bit flummoxed on this one. I did not dig in. Our admin payroll projected is $61,000 for this year, and it was budgeted at more than that. So I think that we spent it. I just think that it showed up in another line here.
Or since we had a bit of turnover, the new employees don't get benefits until they hit 90 days. So a little bit of that is
Could
tucked
be part of
there.
that, yeah. And then for ministry program and preschool program, we took a close look at each of the detailed line items for these. We cut some, we increased some, but it's, you know, a smaller percentage of our budget. The big expenses are typically it's payroll and then down at the bottom, property. And our property expenses that we're projecting this year is $186,000, and that does include $65,000 of capital improvements. The stuff rolling over from last year includes the ADA bathroom, cooling in here, and we're also budgeting $20,000 to fix up the kitchen. It's a mess in there. So when we ran these numbers, literally the first thing out of my mouth was, oh my God. But we cut the little easy things. If we ever want to get to a balanced budget, we're going to have to cut very seriously big, hard things. So with this $258,000 and the proposed reparations fund. We have that $1 million in the bank that we looked at earlier. This is basically 250,000 of that for 76.5 for the capital improvements, another $181,000 in operating deficit, $258,000. We've got to pay for that somewhere. We can transfer funds from our savings, our endowment, our grants to cover the capital improvement, but that $181,000, I don't know where that's going to come from, if not out of our investments. I think we'll be digging into our investments this year to pay our expenses. If we also put in the $200,000 for the reparations fund, that's a transfer. We would still have that money, which is why I titled this slide Available Funds. If we make that unavailable, we would go this year from almost $1 million to just over $500,000 of available funds by the end of the year. As all of you know, that's not sustainable. We can't do this for very long. I have never been a treasurer before. I will never be a treasurer again. I do not know how to solve this problem. I don't know what to do. But I do know this is not a problem that I can solve. But this is a problem that I felt I needed to tell all of you about and make sure that we're looking at this. If we continue the way we're going, we're going to close in 3 years, 4 years. So I don't know if this is the right budget for this year. But this is the budget that we have and the budget that I am presenting to you for a vote today. Thank you.
Tom, the last couple of days, has been saying, I'm going to do the best I can to try to make this as clear and as honest as possible. And I really appreciate how much work it takes to do that. So thank you, especially since you've never been a treasurer. You're really good with thinking and spreadsheets. Thank you.
Yeah, the spreadsheet part's kind of fun.
Thank you.
I just want everybody to know how many nights Tom has spent after his full-time job stressing about this, agonizing about this, feeling this very emotionally, because he is very emotionally invested in this church, and this has been a very, very hard thing for him to put together. So as we discuss this, please be respectful of the time and energy and the heartbreak that he has had putting this together.
I do want to point out, my favorite thing about being treasurer is that I ended up with an official treasurer shirt. I inadvertently wore this for the first 2 quarterly meetings that I was treasurer, and now it's become a tradition. So Karen, if you'd like, I can hand it down to you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. If you have questions or comments, I can do my best. I do have the complete budget here with all of the detailed line items. If you're masochistic and want to go take a look at them, I can set you loose. But that's all I have to say.
I'm really impressed with this. I also really appreciate that we got it online so we could look at it, ahead of time. I'm really concerned about our member giving. And in the future, it might help if we separate the church from the preschool. I realize that we are one, but when I tithe and give money to the church, I want to see the church functions that it's going toward. And so I don't know how hard that would be. Maybe other people don't feel that way, but in the future, you don't need to do this year. I can look at each item and I could pull it out, but it would just be helpful if I could see the member giving versus our expenses.
Broken down by core, so ministry income and expenses, preschool income expenses. I do have those numbers I can share with you.
It's there, but it's mixed.
We can show you that.
So the first line is, oh, all ministry revenues, but that's member giving. The first line of 84,000 is what's projected. Is that, and the second line is tuition.
We have that.
Okay. Okay. Oh, one slide just with all the preschool stuff.
You know, we have been posting the monthly financials on the website under the member section. And I don't know how many of you, I mean, it's COVID, we haven't had as many meetings like this. And so it is important so that people stay current. You know, I think we need to have more regular reporting out, although people don't tend to like that a lot in worship. But at a minimum, know that it's on the website.
Okay.
Our capital improvements are, we always, well, I think we always pay for those out of our savings. I mean, you could say that the grand total is like 180, that, you know, for our operations.
Sure, you can say whatever you want. I don't know the proper terminology for what should be considered deficit or not, but I do know that that money does have to come from somewhere, and whatever we call it, it is coming out of here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yes, I agree. 65,000 of that, 76,000 of that is for capital improvements.
Can you give us a briefing on what those capital improvements are going to be? I think we all know the ADA bathrooms, but what else is in the works?
The three things that are included in there is the ADA bathroom retrofit and ADA doors. It's the materials and labor for cooling in the sanctuary and $20,000 for the kitchen upgrade. That's correct.
We do not have confirmed bids on any of those things. These are all estimates. So it could be less, but it probably will be a little more. And at each point, I'll seek to get approval before spending.
So I just would like to say too that it was when looking at these numbers and hearing Tom say in council that at this rate, you know, we will last like what 3 or 4 years. It made me feel like it was all the more important to, you know, have an endowment that sets this aside as a permanent legacy for Skyline, rather than have that number down in the 537, and that number would then be 737, which means that we would even have longer before we, you know, we would forestall confronting these issues. And I think that we need to confront these issues in the next, you know, year or two, rather than say, oh, well, we don't have to confront it now. And that's part of, I think it's really that's part of the thought about having an endowment. And also that is coming from this bequest that really deserves, in my opinion, it really deserves to be memorialized with a worthy endowment.
Nancy, I think it's going to happen. All we ask for is just a few weeks or month to think through this thing. It's not going to be an indefinite, deferral. It's going to happen. Let us think through this thing. Did Ria and Kay actually specifically state that this should happen, identify these organizations? It's just to honor them, and these are two women that need to be honored. Every day I try to honor them for helping me build a school in my village in Africa. They need to be honored, and they will be honored. All we need is further discussions. We'll look at this through and read through what the document says, and they will be honored in the definitely before the end of the year. That's what I'm thinking. But let's give ourselves time to discuss this, okay?
Thank you.
We thank you for being a treasure and all the work that you're doing during this, and don't waste any more sleep over this. Because remember, last year, didn't we project that we'll have 170-something thousand? And God works in mysterious ways. We ended up coming out a total of, negative this plus that is 190-something million. Amazing things could happen. Who the hell is calling me? Oh, my daughter. Family first. So, from negative to positive, we're going to be okay. Don't breathe, be still.
I'm kind of with Sent though. Like when this whole thing happened, it was the timing of the bequest was literally a couple of weeks after COVID. I mean, it gives me the chills to think about it. The timing when we started to receive it. I remember talking with Nancy about like, make sure that it's earning interest, all these stupid things. And then also the efforts of getting these payroll protection loan grants that we didn't know we were going to get. The other thing that happened, and again, it was when I was away on sabbatical, there was a team of you who helped to renovate the classrooms down here so that they could be used for, it was like enrichment, 5 years ago, enrichment programs for the preschool for a couple of hours during the day. They have been used for full-time classroom. Without those rooms, we would have had 10 fewer students. And think of the impact of that. The upper classrooms are licensed for 34 full-time student equivalents, and we're at 34 students, but we could maybe expand now. So I see that there's hope and there's a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. There are a lot of things that we could do, but we need to do those things. Hope is not a plan. Hope is not going to get us out of this. We need to take serious actions, and I think that part of that action needs to be a serious look at what we can cut from the budget. We don't have this much money to spend every year. Right on.
I didn't hear that. Okay, I'm not moderating. Yeah, I heard.
kind of heard Walter, somebody was speaking at the time. So we have a motion and a second, and we're going to take a vote. And I think folks on Zoom can participate on the polling.
On the poll, okay.
Poll.
Launch, okay. Anybody on Zoom there? If you're on Zoom, you're going to see there are 3 questions. Approve, and maybe okay. Approve the 2022-23 budget, yes, no, or abstain. Approve the 22-23 slate of council members and officers. And then the third one, and I guess we're going to hold off on that, was approve the reparations resolution. So we'll just hold off on number 3. Or discuss further. Okay. Yeah, so I've got, people are voting here, like I've seen some.
Oh, cool. Okay,
Yeah, I've
neat.
got it on there, yeah,
Great, okay.
yeah. 1 of 2 participated.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
think it's just
yeah, yeah.
David.
Let's see.
Oh, it's Dave too.
Okay, so while we're waiting, oh, everybody can see what Dave Byron's voted. Whoops. We just move that off to the side. There we are. Wow, it's been a sobering meeting. You know, in talking with a lot of my colleagues, talking with our conference minister, and I'm sure we'll hear more next week at our conference annual meeting, and it's everywhere in the world. The world is going through a radical transformation, a movement, and Christianity is going through that radical transformation as well, and it's mirrored within this faith community. We're feeling it. I'm encouraged that there are so many here, including people who aren't quote-unquote members that care to want to be a part of this conversation. And what I pray for above everything else is that we are open to being led by the Spirit, by the Holy One in this journey, and that we have the courage to be changed by that Spirit, even when it gets edgy and risky and scary. And I also think of the name of Nancy Taylor and I and many of you others have been involved with Faith in Action, you know, so there's hope, there's faith, there's love, and there's action, as Tom, our moderator, put it. And so I really know how hard this has been. I'm weary. I know a lot of you are weary, and I'm also hopeful. And I feel called by the Spirit to be led by the Spirit in this this life-giving, empowering, sometimes painful birth process of change. And so I want to give thanks to each one of you, and above all, I want to express my deepest gratitude to your leadership and your faith-filled leadership. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Mentioned yet, but Walter, Tony, Paula, Sean, and Anna participated in that, and I am looking forward to seeing what we can do with that report. I know they worked very, very hard on it, and a lot of work went into that. As I looked at where we are, I think looking at that proposal and revisiting some of that, when you look at, I remember giving at $80-some thousand, and just looking at the one line of ministry salaries being at 140, there's some things that we have to do if we're serious about maintaining this as a church. I just think that has to be looked at, and I don't want the efforts of that team to not be recognized, because they spent a lot of time putting that proposal together.
The new Can you hear me? It was? Oh, it's on. Okay. Yes. I think to look at the then and the now, especially of our profile, was huge. It's sobering to look at the drop in membership, and also the context of how it's happening throughout the world. And then what do we want? What do we want to do about that? Well, how do we understand that? What's the why? Where are we called to now? How do we organize ourselves? Becky.
After this, we're going to be, can you hear me? Yeah, it is. Anyway, I think our next step after this is the visioning process. Paula, Walter, of course, led the way on that. Do you have any thoughts on timing on that, Walter, or process? Thank you. Did you all hear me? Oh, that's much better. I'm asking Walter if he or Paula or someone knows next steps on the whole visioning process.
As chair, wow, you can hear me. Yep. As chair of the committee, I've submitted a report to the church council, and the church council heard the report and voted to table the report and defer to a visioning session for the entire church. Okay. This council didn't launch that process. I presume that in the transition and all the transfer of authority of this council, that we will include that in the orientation, such that the next council can consider taking on the all-church visioning. Thank you.
Okay. And you will stay involved in that?
I'm sorry?
You will stay involved in that?
I commit to stay involved.
Yes, so the vision is basically asking ourselves this question: where are we going? Where are we called in this time and place? Our why. Why should we exist now? Why should this faith community exist now? What is our mission? And then we get into the how, which is how do we organize ourselves around it? Part of that's the bylaws, part of that's staffing. So very important, and it's a faith journey, not just a financial one. Other questions? Okay, are we ready for the ballots yet? I did. There was one vote. It's here it is. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, only one person. I don't know why David Gare's on there. Okay. All right. Yes, one person. Okay, approve the vote. How many yays, how many nays, how many abstained? I've got one yay.
Wait, are you approve the vote? You mean
Approve the budget.
Oh, okay. So we have 16 yeses, 0 noes, and 2 abstains.
Okay, so we have 17 yeses. Okay. All right. Approve the 2022-23 slate of council members.
We have 16 yeses.
We have 17 yeses.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Okay, yeah.
0 noes and 2 abstains.
Okay. And the third, I have one discuss further.
Okay, so reparations, we have 2 yeses, 1 no, 0 abstains, and with the online, that would be 16 discussed further.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to just repeat that, Lori, just so that the mic's on?
Oh, okay. So 16 discuss furthers, 2 abstained. Oh, you want me to read the whole thing over? Yeah. So what passed is the budget and the council slate of new officers. What's voted to discuss further is reparations resolution. Okay. Thank you very much. Our annual meeting is concluded. Paula has graciously brought some food, and I think Becky's got something.
No, I just want to say that the flower arrangements are meant to be given to Tom and Carolyn for your absolute tireless assistance, especially in the last couple of months. Tom, I am so appreciative of you for someone who says, I really am not an accountant, I'm not the treasurer. He has done just a yeoman's job. I mean, I was getting emails on the smallest little things and events from Tom. He's so conscientious. And Carolyn, I can't tell you how impressed I was that you work full-time, and then you had like 4 other roles here at the church. It's just unbelievable. So thank you, thank you. You each get a flower arrangement. Of course, one is for Katie.
So one other thing, so as Catherine mentioned in the worship service, Gabrielle's last Sunday with us is June 26th. And in addition to a couple of us how many of you saw her performance on Friday night? It was extraordinary. She's really gifted. So I'm sad that she's leaving. I'm happy for her with her vision, and I want to invite anyone who'd like to sign the card and also contribute to it. It's Katie Ostroswer. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. And then we can go into the friendship room. Thank you.